Welcome to Wisdom Journey, the podcast where we explore the path of building an online business from the ground up. Here, I share my wins, struggles, lessons, and experiments so you can learn, adapt, and grow alongside me. I also interview experts in their respective field. Whether you're just starting out or looking for new strategies to scale, this is your space to find inspiration and practical wisdom. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to take you on to this journey. Today on the Wisdom Journey podcast, we're diving into one of the most underestimated business performance tools on earth, sleep. Our guest, Tim Thomas, is a former Special Forces commando turned sleep strategist and breathwork disruptor. He's helped veteran programs raise over $1 million for mental health research, and now he's bringing those same high performance principles into the boardroom. Through his breathwork in bed method, Tim teaches entrepreneurs, leaders, and teams how to regulate stress, rebuild energy, and turn exhaustion into clarity and control. His mission is simple: to show business owners that burnout isn't a badge of honor, it's a biology problem that can be fixed. If you've ever felt like you're running on caffeine, deadlines, and willpower alone, this conversation will give you the reset your business didn't know it needed. Let's welcome T. Thomas, founder of Breathwork in Bed, helping people rest better so they can lead better. Welcome to the podcast, team.
Thank you for that
No
intro,
problem.
and looking forward to spending time with you and your audience.
Yeah. I want us to start with one of the uh, statements. I guess we'll call it phrase you use. You call fatigue an invisible business killer. And I'm curious, what's the real financial and human cost of poor sleep inside a company and business?
Sure. So a lot of people get into this idea that if they focus everything on a particular goal, they'll achieve it. And that is true up until a point. But what I've seen happen time and time again, these highly motivated people, they're so focused on achieving a goal outside of them, and they're connected to that, but they disconnect from their own bodies. So often quality sleep is hard to find for these people. And one thing I tell businesses is if you want to cut the amount of sick days you have in half, improve the sleep of your employees, because sleep poor people take twice as many sick days as people who are well rested. And it's not just absenteeism, it's presenteeism. When you're sleep poor, you're 30 to 40% less productive. So there's these conversations that need to be had around sleep, because so many people are looking at what I call the top of the pyramid, where I think of performance like a pyramid. Top of the pyramid, you're making bank, you're hitting your goals, you're hitting your targets, dollars are coming in, you're doing your job the way you want it done. But then the bottom of the pyramid is your rest, recovery, and healing art forms. And the top of the pyramid is obvious, and people get a lot of credit for that. But the bottom of the pyramid is not often seen, your rest, recovery, healing. No one sort of gives you a congratulations after having a good night's sleep or looked after your rest and recovery. And so within that conversation, I invite people to consider the possibility your longevity of performance is relative to how well and how dialed into your own rest, recovery, and healing, and how much time you spend in that. Because if we don't pay attention to the rest, recovery, and healing, because our bodies are plenty powerful, we're built to work, but if we don't rest and recover, we start saying things like, oh, you're over the hill at 30. You're over the hill at 50. You're definitely over the hill at 50, and forget about it at 60. So even if it's just for a dollar value, it makes a lot of sense to spend time at the bottom of the pyramid, rest, recovery, healing art forms. And it is an art form, and it is a learnt art form unique to you that will then ensure you are always hitting the top of the pyramid.
Why do you think, burnout has become normalized among entrepreneurs and executives?
Well, unfortunately, you're absolutely right, Wisdom. It's like this group hypnosis that I only slept 4 hours last night. What's your problem? Have another coffee, And we tend to sort of give these badges of honor for people who can push hard with no sleep, and then they sort of brag about it, and everyone starts thinking, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. And, you can get ahead in the short term by sacrificing your own body, sacrificing your own sleep. But it's a matter of time before that kind of catches up on you.
If sleep is this important, how can leaders start tracking energy the same way they track profit and KPIs and all those other numbers?
Well, if I was to construct a mapped out day for people who want to, I call it extend the longevity of their youth. Other people might say, maximize profits over time, maximize performance over time. And so I would map people's day out where you spend a third of your day pouring into your own cup, understanding that energy is like money. How you invest it is how you get it back. And if you invest in you and you create an abundance, then from that position of strength, you can then pour into others. So 1/3 of your day pouring into yourself, and then 2/3 of the day pouring into your business, pouring into other people. But it has to start with yourself, because what I've noticed is if you're just adequate, and I'll own this, if I was just adequate, if I was just at 100% and something required 10% of my energy to achieve, I would have attachments to that. I'd say, look, I've given you 10%, I'm down to 90%, you better do something with that. So my consideration, my invitation is for people to consider that if you invest the first part of your day in you and you're at 500%, you can give away 20% a day and people can love it, hate it. You might get the outcome you might want, you might not, but you can put it back in the next day without any sweat. And I guess ultimately my goal for myself and all my clients is to become energetic millionaires. And life occurs very differently when you've got $1 million worth of energy or you've only got 2 cents worth of energy.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned is you talked about maximizing performance. And when we look at it, we realize that in the long term, um, sleep and rest is investing into the performance too. It's not just when you're not doing anything. And one of the terms you use is the ROI of rest. That's the return on investment of rest, right? And I know you talked about that it's important, but how can it actually increase productivity and innovation?
Sure. Well, let's talk about let's go from the other angle of how sleep deprivation can destroy everything about you. So I'm ex-special
Okay.
forces, and in Afghanistan, we used to deliberately target our enemy's sleep because we didn't know anything about the science of sleep. We just knew if we could deny them sleep for 3 days, it would mess them up better than a bullet. So the
Oh,
difference between us performing the way we want to perform and being this incomprehensible gibbering mess is about 3 nights sleep. So that's the negative side to it. And I need to highlight that because sleep often gets forgotten about until it gets to a point where it's just where everything is collapsing, right? But if you want to flip the script on that, every athlete knows quality performance comes from quality rest and prioritizing rest. In the army, they used to call it forced rest, and they understood that you can't have sustainable performance without a discipline around your sleep. And most people in business, they don't need the discipline of working any harder. They have that. Okay. But what I ask people to consider is that creating a discipline around sleep won't just make you more productive in the moment, it'll make you productive over time. It'll extend. Let's talk about this in just brain function. Have you heard of brain fog wisdom when you're not thinking straight?
yeah.
Okay. So there's something that happens when we don't sleep properly. Every part of our system creates energy and it creates waste. We eat food and we also poop, right? Your brain sits in this, what's called a blood-brain barrier. It's this bag, right? And when we get 6 to 8 hours sleep, the waste from our spinal fluid comes up and goes into our brain and cleans out all the waste. And if we don't sleep enough, we wake up and we're thinking foggy, okay? You're feeling crappy because you literally have crap in your brain that hasn't been pulled out yet. So this is where people are very vulnerable and suggestible because you're tired, you've got to go on. So what do we need? Oh, shut up until I've had a coffee. I've got to have an energy drink, and then I need a beer at the end of the day to calm down. So it's mental. There's not a function your body has that isn't destroyed by poor sleep. And conversely, there isn't a function your body has that isn't improved with good sleep. But unfortunately, most talks about productivity have no mention about sleep. It's all about working harder and, grinding and getting off your ass and whatever. I challenge that accepted idea of performance.
I like the way you approached it. You like before we talk about the performance, the return on investment. Let's look at what happens when the negative things that could happen, and then you flipped it around. Um, we've been talking about the importance of sleep so far. Would you be so kind to share with us a story or case where better rest badly transformed performance or revenue?
Okay. Well, I met a guy who was in business, and for 38 years, he was classed as an insomniac. And I was shocked because I'd known him for a few years, and he just thought poor sleep was normal, as so many people do. They think it's normal to struggle at night. They think it's normal to wake up feeling terrible. Okay. And I prescribed him some very simple breath work, and I checked in 8 days later. He said, after 8 days, he said, Tim, for the first time in 38 years, I've slept all the way through all 8 nights, except on one night when the dog woke me up. And that guy's name's Chris. And he then started training to achieve a goal that he wanted, which was the fastest 60-year-old triathlete. And he just competed in the World Triathlon Championships in Australia. So it shocks me how many people take poor sleep for granted. And by definition, good sleep has you waking up feeling like, wow, I feel pretty good. And so when I ask people, are you sleeping well? I'll say, well, in the last 2 weeks, how many times did you wake up going, wow, I feel really good? Because that's what good sleep will give you. But right now, society sort of encourages this bare minimum. And I'll often ask people, okay, what would happen if you never charged up your phone? Okay, it would go flat, right? But us humans, just before the phone goes completely flat, it hits this power saving mode, and you can only access so many features on that phone. The phone can do a lot, but
Yeah.
it's restricted when it's in that power saving mode. So there's so many humans in this power saving mode just getting by, and they can genuinely say there's no way I can work any harder, and that's true because that's the amount of energy they have. But if they were to plug into their charger, all of a sudden all these other features get unlocked, and you
Yeah.
never see your full potential until you actually have the energy in your physical body.
Um, you were giving us a story of how, when you served in Afghanistan, one of the tactics was to deprive the enemy of sleep, right?
Yep.
And that's a high pressure, zero room for error environment. It's literally life and death situation, right? I'm curious, what parallels do you see between elite military performance and business leadership, or is there no parallels at all? Hey, quick break. Before we continue, I'd love for you to join the Wisdom Journey newsletter. Every week, I share exclusive insights, tools, and behind the scenes updates to help you stay ahead in your own journey of building an online business. It's simple, practical, and built to help you grow. Sign up today for free at the link in the description. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Okay, I see a lot of similarities in the way that, when I mentioned this earlier, mental health for me is not a mental health problem. It's a physical disconnect problem. You're so focused on the enemy, you're so focused on the goal, you're so focused on meeting that deadline, you've disconnected from your own body, and your body's like, "Oh, this must be important. I'm going to self-destruct enough for you to actually achieve that." So a hormone called cortisol picks up, and that allows you to keep going under duress, under fatigue. But there's a time and a place to push hard, but if you do it too much for too long, too much cortisol in your system drives your hormone levels into the dirt. So soldiers and businessmen often end up with what's called adrenal fatigue because they've been pushing so hard for so long, cortisol level high, hormone levels low. And you're always tired, but you can't sleep. You're craving, sugar, alcohol. You're putting on weight. You don't know why. And everyone just seems really annoying. So regardless of environment, whether it's the battle space or the business field, there is this environmental pressure to go into survival mode. And when we tell our bodies, hey, we're in survival mode, the body's like, yep, okay, we want to live through this. So here's all the cortisol you want to get through this, to push through. And it's, yeah, you're essentially cashing in your tomorrow to live today. And you can only do that so much.
I was listening to your audiobook before before we hopped on the call. I loved that phrase you talked about George Orwell. Men sleep well at night because they are men who are
Yeah.
willing to.
Yeah.
Why does that sound funny, even though it's a very serious quote? Okay.
So, so you're talking about the quote that in the Australian Army basic training, they get us to memorize this verse saying, men sleep peacefully in their beds at night, knowing rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. Meaning that, if there's people manning the wall, the village can feel safe and they can sleep peacefully because they don't have to do violence themselves. There's other people ready to defend the village, essentially. And yeah, part of me was laughing at that because I was like, all right, so we're going to get shot at and die so people can get good night's sleep. Wow, sleep must be really important. But ironically, I come back to my home country after serving overseas in war zones, and I feel like I've failed because so many people aren't sleeping well. And again, my definition of sleeping well is waking up feeling like, wow, I feel good. I feel energized. I've plugged into the charger. I'm now 100%.
Yeah.
And just like we use sleep deprivation as a weapon of war, these days I say if you truly care about someone, wisdom, you'll care about how they sleep. Think about all the people that you care about. How much time have you spent going, well, what am I doing to help them sleep well at night? And it's not even a conversation most people have because it's unseen, and we're very visual people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. There's one concept you talked about in the book, right? I think basically that's what the book is based on, and that's breathwork. I'm curious, how does breathwork affect decision making, emotional control, and even team dynamics? How we relate with people beyond just as something we can do to like relax. What is even breathwork in the first place?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll ask you. Mammals, we don't know it, but we're always aware of how the mammals around us are breathing. Okay. So if you saw
Okay.
someone going, like, what do you think they're about to do? What kind of state do you think they're in?
They're running. They're panting.
They're panting, but let's say they were stationary and they're going.
Oh, they're in like shock, anxiety, panic attack, any of those things.
You got it right. So
Yeah.
there is a breath state to an emotional state. Just let that sink in, okay? And just picture the biggest gym you've ever seen. Okay, there's thousands of bits of workout equipment in it. And it's all under the umbrella of exercise, but it works different parts of you, right?
Yeah.
So it is with your breath. You breathe a certain way, you can strengthen a certain part of you. So when I'm working with executives, I'll show them how to reset their brain and get focused with breath. When I'm working with high school students, I'll show them how to drop their stress levels and focus their academia. When I'm working with a mum that's got a few kids and she wants to maximize whatever sleep she has, there's a certain breathwork technique for that. When I'm working with a small business owner and he's really struggling to get out of bed, there's a certain breathwork technique that'll turn that bed into a trampoline. So people are always breathing a certain way when they're in a certain state. So think of a dog that you can look at his tail and it indicates the state of where he's at, right? And the dog probably doesn't know he's wagging his tail. He's just happy, right? The dog doesn't know he's scared with his tail between his legs. He just knows he's scared. So it is with our breathing. Our breathing indicates our state. And just like, let's just say you could grab that tail of the dog and wag it and boom, he's automatically happy. Stick it between his legs, boom, he's automatically scared. This is what it's like with our breathing. And until we realize that wisdom, we're always looking outside of ourselves for things that make us happy, stop us feeling scared, help us sleep. Okay, what does that look like? So when I didn't know the power of my breath to help bring healing and relaxation to my body, I was addicted to pharmaceuticals for 6 years when I told the doctor I couldn't sleep. And I know I'm not the only one to do that. I'm not anti-pill, but I like to push to the surface the ability our own bodies have to heal, to restore, to bring balance, to bring performance before going outside of me. And my joy, the thing that makes me most happy is introducing people to the power and peace that is underneath their own skin. You don't have to go anywhere else. And
Mm.
breath work is the gateway for that. And
Oh,
unfortunately, no one's going to do this for you. There's more money to be made if you do not know your own ability to create power and peace, because then you have to buy more coffee, buy more alcohol, buy more whatever.
oh,
It's usually, yeah, you usually hear about this sort of stuff from somebody who's experienced the worst of it, found something that really works, and is really passionate about sharing it. And you don't hear about breath work and the power underneath your own skin very easily because no one's making money from it.
breath work. So it's how do I what's the word? Altering how we breathe to depending on the parts of if we want to like strengthen our brain or focus. That's what breath work is, right?
Yeah, well, you
Based.
can you learn that your lungs isn't a set of lungs, it's a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. And
Yeah.
and essentially what I like to tell people, my job is to help you become sovereign. Okay? When you're sovereign, when you're in that zone of, you've got your power, you've got your peace, you're negotiating from a position of strength, you're not nervous, you're not stressed, you're not sleeping poorly. This is your sovereign state. Some people call it being centered, but when you're off centered, it's 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 two completely different people. There's the sovereign you that's centered, sleeping well, can restore their power. I mean, they still get stressed, bad things still happen, but we can bring ourselves back to our center so much quicker, as opposed to being off centered, blaming others, needing more pills, needing more alcohol, needing more external substances to bring us back to what we think is our sovereign state. And that's sort of the vision I have is for everyone I know to be able to afford a good night's sleep.
It's, I feel relaxed.
Yeah,
just
well,
listening you talk about breath work.
if you're open to it, I can show you how to, like, my little party trick, my little sample breathwork technique is to show people how to completely relax their body in 3 breaths.
It won't make me fall asleep because if I fall asleep, you might end up completing this podcast interview. You interview yourself and you say the call to action and pretty much that's it. Okay, yeah, I'd love to know
Sure.
what that looks like.
Okay, well, this is really simple, but because you've been breathing your whole life, Wisdom, and anyone listening to this, I invite you to give this a try. You've been breathing
Okay.
your whole life, you've been breathing a certain way. So we're going to be breathing differently for 3 breaths, and you're going to be feeling different things in your body. So all I need to do is I ask permission from you to get the full experience of this. So I ask 3 little easy questions that, yourself or anyone listening can agree to or not. This is an invitation, and my request is you do it in a safe area. You're not driving, you're not sort of near a body of water, just a place where you feel supported and safe. So the first question, Wisdom, is do you give permission to your own breath to fully nourish every single part of your own body?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. Great. That was easy. So, Wisdom, do you give permission to your own breath to fully nourish every part of your conscious thinking mind?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. Last question. Wisdom, do you give permission to your own breath to fully nourish every part of your unconscious mind? Awesome. So this is going to be really easy. To start with, we're going to exhale, 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 and then breathe in. Okay, so just blow it out and then breathe in. Okay, now if you did that, you took a conscious breath. You're aware of your inhale and you're aware of your exhale. And when we lose awareness of our breath, that's when we start leaving our body, getting focused on something outside of our body. So these 3 breaths are going to bring us back into our charge point, which is our body. So this time, we're going to exhale, breathe in through our nose, but then breathe in more. Got it? So start with an exhale and then breathe in more. If you need to put the mic down, that's fine. Out, and then breathe in, more. Now hold it, and just wriggle your shoulders, wriggle your spine, wriggle, move it all around the place, wriggle. And then if it feels good, let it out with a big sigh. Out. Woo! Okay. Let that energy just go through your system. You don't have to speak to it. This is your energy. You've given it permission to nourish your body, your mind, your unconscious mind. It's an active receivership breathing. Okay, it really is. Okay. We've spoken of the theory. This is a tangible proof. And if yourself and your listeners you can forget everything I said. If you can integrate this into your day, then you're going to be in your sovereign zone, And if you're outside your sovereign zone, you'll be able to pull yourself back into it. All right. So we're going to build on that inhale, because you probably noticed when you breathed in more, there was extra sort of room opening up in the top third of your lungs. We're going to call that, for the sake of giving it a name, your secondary inhale. So your primary inhale is where you breathe in and out here. And your secondary is when you breathe in more, and you can feel it in your top third. So you didn't know this, and most people don't. In your 2 fingers and thumbs, you have a power button that if you pinch down on, you can boost your secondary inhale. Okay, so just show me your 2 fingers and thumbs and pinch down really hard in your thumb, pinch down really hard when it comes to your secondary inhale. Okay, so we're going to exhale, breathe in, and then pinch, and then look up as we breathe in. Okay, so have these power buttons ready. Exhale. Out. Mouth closed. When you're ready, breathe in. Hit those power buttons. Look up. Open. Hit those power buttons. Open. Now hold it and wriggle it and open your chest. Feel like your chest is opening up. Wriggle your chest. Big, strong, proud chest. Wriggle. Feel like the sun is coming into your chest and there's a flower opening up. And then when it feels good, let it out with a big ah. Right. Let that in. Let it in. Who knew that inside your own skin, we had this wonderful resource that was free, powerful, permanent access. How's your body feeling, Wisdom?
Refreshed.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's refreshed.
All right.
It's refreshed. The reason I'm laughing is because after this interview, I feel ready to dive into sleep. That's why I'm laughing. I feel like I'm prepared. It's just for us to do the needful, and then I say my goodbye, and voila.
Well, I'm gonna show you how to add a little bit more juice to this. Okay. So what we're gonna do now on this last one is we're gonna do exactly what we did. We're gonna exhale, and then with our power buttons ready, look up, breathe in quick. We're going to hold it, and then we're going to wriggle it down low. We're going to push it into our belly button. Hands on the belly button, push it down, and we're just going to hum it out like, okay? Humming it out through the nose as we push it down low, all right? So I'll be with you the whole time. I'll talk you through it. Have your power buttons ready. Start with your exhale. Out. And I really want you to speed up your inhale. Breathe in really rapidly. Snort that out. In. Good. Now hold it and wriggle. Hands on your belly. Wriggle it down low. Push it down low like a balloon in your belly. And then with your head forward, let out a for as long as possible. Out. Good. And just sit back in your chair and let that chair take your weight. Let the chair take your weight. It was built to hold you. It will hold you. Let the muscles touching the chair feel supported. So often in our tension, we don't let ourselves feel supported. So let those muscles feel supported. That chair was built to hold you. It will hold you. And let your own energy nourish your physical body. You just give it permission. Get out of its way. Let it do its thing. And you might notice that things occur very differently once you've accessed your own medicine. That may have been the first proper breath your body's taken. Take your time. What just happened was one of the most powerful things we can do for ourselves. When we give ourselves what we truly need, it's amazing how little we need. And if we don't understand what we truly need, it's amazing how much we think we need to fill that gap. And I've got no problem creating financial wealth, getting, physical material possessions, but not for a second do I let myself think that that's going to fill the gap in me that I can fill with my breath. So I encourage people, pursue all those things in the world, but give yourself the sense of completion that only we can give through our breath. And if you don't get your head around this, you're going to listen to every idiot who's saying you've got to work harder to get what you want to feel good about yourself. And that's a lie. Only we can do that for ourselves. And the best way I've found, and the reason I'm sharing with you today, is that it is our breath. Could our sense of satisfaction, peace, power, presence, clarity, productivity be connected to our conscious breathing? Could it be that simple? Could it be that free?
Wow, thank you so much, team. I feel like I just did a reboot.
Yeah. You didn't know you're on power saver mode.
If listeners, where can listeners take the next step?
Sure.
Right.
Well, wouldn't it be easy if you just had breath work falling out of your phone exactly when you wanted to sleep and exactly when you woke up, so you wouldn't have to remind yourself to do it? So that is exactly what I offer people. If you go into your phone, Breathwork in Bed app, Breathwork, one word, in bed, it'll ask you two simple and powerful questions. When do you want to sleep? When do you want to wake up? Choose whatever track works for you, but then you don't have to touch it after that. It just falls out of your phone as a notification. You tap it, and tonight you can turn your bed into a cloud. Wisdom, you just took kind of 3 breaths, right? Imagine if you spent 3 minutes doing that. Imagine if you spent 10 minutes doing that, right? That breath will take you places words can't quantify. It's ineffable, as they say. And then conversely, in the mornings, and this is the real game changer here, getting out of bed before your feet hit the ground, you hit that notification, your breath gets guided to connect to your body, remove the fatigue. If you can win the first 5 minutes of the day, you've won the day. And this is my thing of pouring into yourself first, creating an abundance, creating 500% more than you need, and then you can be fearless in your generosity, in your application of self.
Thank you so much, team, for sharing for walking us through the the 3 breaths reset. I don't know if you call it method, framework, or whatever the word is, but that was super helpful. And once again, listeners can go to breathworkinbed.com.au, right?
Yeah, that's my website. I'll give it in the show notes, and what I'll do also, just a gift for everybody, for the first 20 clicks, I'll give you my free audiobook, Breathwork in Bed free audiobook, and it talks more about the depth of what we've been speaking of today. So if today seems like, you know what, I could get something from this, first 20 clicks will get my free audiobook as well. And the app itself has a 28-day free period as well. So again, I recommend people discover for themselves, whether it's my app or not, just what's underneath your own skin. And once you discover it, all of a sudden the outside world becomes very redundant in what it can and can't do for you.
Oh, thank you so much, team. It's been an absolute delight and relaxing chatting with you.
Yeah, you look different now.
Yeah, I'm ready to go to bed.
That's so good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'll put the links mentioned in the description so listeners can just click and go directly to the site. It's been a delight chatting with you, team. Thanks for tuning into Wisdom Journey. I hope today's episode gave you practical steps and fresh ideas to keep moving forward. If you found value, be sure to subscribe and share this podcast with a fellow creator or entrepreneur who'd love to learn too. And don't forget to sign up for the newsletter and the link in the description for more resources, experiments, and lessons straight to your inbox. Until next time, keep building, keep learning, and keep walking your own wisdom journey. Yeah.